what do you say to those people that want to be treated well and want to be treated with respect, and they can't afford the Shangri-La, they can't afford the 5-star, so excuse me, sorry, when they go to whatever hotel they choose to go to, what should they be getting? What are their expectations, and is it fair, or is that just the way it works?
I think you can really get that type of the service that I'm talking about at any hotel. It really comes down to the people.
Right.
So if the hotel has hired well, you'll get that service regardless of how much you're paying.
Right.
Like I remember my first hotel, I was not getting paid that much, but I really loved what I was doing and I was really passionate about what I was doing. And I made sure I treated my guests really well. Of course, you get those guests that are rude and but then you still maintain that professionalism and ask them to be patient while you're trying to resolve their issue if they have any.
Right.
So I think for me, somebody that can't afford a luxury 5-star hotel, I would definitely recommend reading the reviews,
Okay.
Especially if people are mentioning colleagues' names on the reviews.
Right.
That really shows that they have genuine people that really want to be in this industry and are not there just for a paycheck.
Right.
And yeah, I think that's what I would recommend.
Yeah.
Read the reviews online, and even if you can't afford something really high, like there are people out there that are in the industry for the right reasons.
Right. Awesome. There's still hope.
There's still hope. Yes.
That's awesome. Now tell us a bit about, like I said, you did just come back from a trip.
Yes.
Where I was living vicariously through you through social media. And I just learned before we turned the mics on that you were this was a solo trip on your own. So how did that come to be a thing? And tell us a bit about the trip.
So I was actually really wanting to go to Dinner en Blanc in Paris.
Right.
And I'm involved in Dinner en Blanc in Vancouver. Like I've been a table leader for 2 years now.
Okay.
So we got the invitation. We're like, oh, like if anybody's interested, they can go to the one in Paris. And it was the 30th anniversary. And I don't know why or where this started, but I've always been curious about like France, Paris, anything French. I love the language.
Yeah.
It's like music to my ears. I'm sure I'm not the only one, but
right.
So when I saw that, I was like, why not? Just kind of went with the whim, and that's how it started. So
okay.
I was like, I told my boss, I'm going to go for 5 days to Paris. And she's like, only 5 days just to Paris? I was like, yeah, why not? You live only once. And I'm just going to go. And she's like, why don't you go for 2 weeks? I was like, are you serious? In the hotel industry, we can never get 2 weeks off.
Right.
So I was really lucky that she gave me 2 weeks because we had an extra person.
Okay.
And so then I was like, oh, okay. So it was very last minute. I booked my tickets last minute. So I flew into London, took the train to Paris. I didn't really want to wait for anybody. I just wanted to, I've never done that before. I've always gone with someone, or I've always gone there and met a friend. And I was like, why not? I'll just do it. And I'm 28 and I feel like I'm reaching sort of, I'm kind of going into this like adult sort of, I feel like
transition,
like, and in my career I'm transitioning to, and my personal life I'm transitioning to. So I feel like I needed to do something for myself. And I talked to all my girlfriends and they were like, do it. Like when else are you going to get a chance like this? And I was like, okay. And I took the plunge, and don't ask me about my credit cards because that's another can of worms I don't want to open. But I have no regrets. Like I've been telling my girlfriend, like if I die tomorrow, I know happy. I'm going to die in peace, and I will truly rest in peace because I had an amazing trip. It really was life changing. I stayed in an Airbnb in Paris.
Okay.
I've never booked an Airbnb before, so I was a little bit nervous about that. So I stayed in this girl's apartment, and it was like the best apartment. It was tiny. It was so tiny, but it was just enough. And it was just for me. She had an espresso machine. And I was like, this is great. I don't even need to make coffee in the morning. This machine is going to do everything. She had so many pods, and I was like, oh, I'm never going to feel bad that I'm going to finish it all. And she had like the smallest tub I've ever seen, but that's just how it is in person.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
I made eggs in the morning. There was like a grocery store around the corner.
Beautiful.
It was everything I needed, and I was trying to be a local. Like I wanted to be someone that lived in Paris, and that's exactly the experience that I got. So the first 3 days, I was involved with the organization for Dinner en Blanc, and I met so many people. At first, I thought I had a table of all Americans because I was assigned to a Los Angeles group.
Okay.
But I actually had 4 or 5 tables that were from Paris. So I met up with one of the ladies, and then she took me to her house. And this is
wow.
like 19th century apartment. Where else are you going to get experiences like that? Like, and I truly believe that it all happened because I was traveling alone. I needed to meet people, and I went outside my comfort zone a little bit. And I'm never going to have, like, you know, if I was a tourist or if I went with somebody else, I don't think that would have happened.
So was part of the motivation, and I just found it ironic when you mentioned I stayed at an Airbnb.
Yes.
As a concierge, I thought the first thing you would have done is booked a hotel or like an associate hotel of within your family. But was that really your intention? Was you wanted to immerse yourself in the local
culture?
Feel, right?
Yes, exactly. And I didn't want to feel like a tourist. I wanted to feel like I lived there, and that's exactly I want. And besides, I couldn't afford the rate that I was getting.
Right.
So I was like, might as well try something different. I also booked an experience. Like, I don't know if you know, but Airbnb has experiences now.
Yeah.
And it's not that big in Vancouver, but in Europe, it's huge.
Right.
So I booked this experience where this girl takes you to all these vintage clothing shopping.
Oh, very cool.
Yes. And she's been shopping in these stores since she was 15. And that was probably the highlight of my trip as well, other than Dinner en Blanc.
Right.
So I got like some vintage Hermes ties, and
right.
I don't have anything luxury, so this was like was like amazing. And she's a really good person, and I hung out with her the next day. I met another American girl, and
that to me is what hospitality is. As well.
It is.
You know
yes.
what I mean?
Yes.
It's about this girl was selling a product and a service, and the service was this experience, but then she went above and beyond that.
Exactly.
And to me, that's what hospitality is. It's about exceeding expectations. So when someone can't afford the 5-star, they afford the 2-star, but they're getting a 5-star service.
Exactly. And I'm never going to forget that.
Exactly. It leaves an imprint on you.
And she like, I have her on social media. Like, I talk to her, very often now. And I feel like I have a friend in Paris.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were saying, oh, how were the French people? And I never experienced anything bad. So for me, it was all good experiences.
I think it's such a common saying, and maybe it needs to be more common, but you really do get what you give.
Exactly.
And you are such a bright person, like as far as your happiness and your smile and just the aura that you give off. So you get what you give.
Exactly.
So I think if you go with the expectations of the French being quote unquote typical French, that's what you're going to get.
Exactly.
But if you go with an open heart and open mind and a smile on your face, then you're probably going to get that back.
Exactly.
Speaking of smiling, how important is smiling, being a concierge, being a representative of a hotel?
Everything. It really is everything. I mean, guests can really pick on your emotions as well. So, and your colleagues too. So we really have the saying, don't bring your personal life to work. When you're at work, it's a new face, new day, and put on your best face forward. It's everything really. Like, we actually follow this 10-foot and 5-foot rule.
Yes.
I don't know if you've heard of this.
I have. Remind me though. I'm going to say, oh yeah, that's it, as soon as you say it.
So the 10-foot rule is when you see a guest come, you acknowledge them. Like, you either nod your head or you smile them. And then when they come 5 foot from you, then you actually greet them and talk to them and then ask them how their day is going. So that's the general rule with all the luxury hotels. I think it's a really great rule because when they come into a hotel, they're spending a lot of money. They expect that. It's an expectation. I mean, some guests, of course, are the business ones. They really have their own agenda. They're always on the go. But like for our luxury guests, they definitely want to see that because they're not spending $100. They're spending like
thousands.
$600, starting $600 a night up to onward like $1,200.
Wow.
Yeah. So their expectations are really high.
Does that ever get to you, the expectations? Do you find that challenging at times and on days where you're just not feeling like your light, airy, happy self?
It can be challenging when they throw you something that you've never done before.
Okay.
So as a concierge, I mean, we can do anything, right? As long as it's legal.
Right.
So a guest can bring us any kinds of challenges. Okay. I think when you're paying a higher rate, they can really ask you to do pretty much anything.
Can you give us an idea of what something like would be that's a bit above and beyond?
So they could say, hey, the airline lost my luggage, and I have a meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. And the guest would have arrived, say, at midnight.
Right.
And you're kind of like, oh, okay, so you need some clothes for tomorrow then. And that's such a short turnover time.
Right.
But as a concierge, especially as a late later concierge, again, you really need to work through your contacts. I can get Nordstrom opened 24 hours just for that guest, and they can go shopping.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, you're a good girl to know. Not that I could ever afford to shop at Nordstrom's, but if I ever do trip on a box of money, I'll know who to call.
Yes, exactly.
At 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I always knew that concierges definitely have contacts. That's kind of what you guys do. But I didn't realize you had that kind of pull. That's pretty cool.
Yes. And Nordstrom is very, like, we have a very good partnership with them, and we can do that with hold rent through as well. Like, we literally have the manager's phone number. It's a 24-hour line for us to contact them. And they actually come to us and they say, we can do this for your guests.
Right.
So it's not something that we go out there, and businesses really want to elevate that. They know that when they go to a hotel, such as the Shangri-La or the Fairmonts, they know that we will
That's
have...
a demographic.
Exactly.
Right.
And those guests and airlines these days lose luggage quite often.
Exactly.
So they know these things happen, and it's really good to have those contacts.
Yeah, it's great, and that's them defining their hospitality as well, right?
Exactly.
That's really cool. What other contacts would you have that you might think to the layman might be a little bit unheard of? Like what other magic wand can you wield in this city?
So as a late later concierge, like I mentioned before, there's 4,000 members, right? So if I had a guest coming in and saying, hey, I want to go to this restaurant in New York, like that's my next stop, but I can't seem to get this table at this restaurant that's been booked for 6 months, I can call my late later concierge friend.
Right.
Our motto is in service through friendship. So I can call a member there and say, hey, I'm a member from Vancouver. I have a guest coming down. Can you get me a table? I'm thinking I just need to give them half an hour. They'll get me that table.
Wow. So cool. It's kind of like you guys are like the underbelly of like the rock star world.
Pretty much. Yes. It's like we have a lot of pull, and I think not a lot of people realize that. Some of our guests recognize the keys, and some they haven't heard of these keys.
Right.
So it really, what I would maybe like to sort of do like a public service announcement is talk to your concierge.
Right.
When you stay in a hotel, talk to them.
Right.
I know in these days, like, everybody goes online, everybody goes to TripAdvisor, everybody goes to Yelp, and they're like, what's the next big restaurant?
Right.
No, talk to your concierge. They have the power to do anything.
Right.
And test them, like, give them a challenge and see them work through it.
So as someone who is welcoming that challenge, because I'm always curious in this city, what and where people should be going. So if I'm coming to you as I am, and I'm staying in your hotel, and I'm saying, tell me where to go for dinner tonight, how does that process work?
So the first thing I ask them is, what kind of cuisine you want?
Anything. Yeah.
Do you have any allergies?
No allergies, no dietary restrictions, but I'm really hungry.
Okay. For me, I like Nightingale.
Okay.
Nightingale is my new favorite.
Yeah.
I love that they have share plates. So if you're going with a group of people, you can order a lot of dishes and try different things. I also love their open concept kitchen.
Yeah.
So that's like sort of my number one.
Your go-to?
My go-to place for sure. Another favorite of mine, if I'm looking for a more upscale experience, I would go to Ancora. Okay. Ancora is a Peruvian Japanese fusion restaurant, and it faces Granville Island, and it's so bright in the room, and the seafood is amazing. And actually half of the colleagues came from Blue Water Cafe.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So one of the managers opened up this restaurant with one of the chefs from there.
Oh, okay.
And they have a very interesting story as well. So the executive chef, he's Peruvian, and he used to cook Peruvian dishes for the staff at Blue Water Cafe before dinner. Yeah. And so that's pretty much how this manager really loved his cooking. Right. And then said, hey, I found a new place. Do you want to come with me? And yeah, that's how it started. And I love that story.
Such a cool story.
It is.
How do you come to learn about all this?
Just as we network through these, with the managers, they also, anytime a new restaurant opens, if they really understand the power of concierges, they actually send an invite to us to come try it out.
Right.
So that's when they actually share with us the story, and our guests love those things. They love to hear this personal stories and not just know it as a restaurant, but to know the history and how it started. They love that.
Right.
They feed off of that.
For sure.
It's like, oh, they're humans too. It just adds a little bit of a human touch, and
it adds different levels to the experience.
Exactly.
As well, which people want. I think we all I think stories resonate with anyone.
Yes.
Especially when you're trying to sell someone something.
Exactly.
You can tell them a story, they're far more likely to buy into whatever it is you're selling.
Exactly. For example, at the Fairmont Waterfront, when I was working there, I don't know if you know, but they have their own herb garden.
No, I didn't realize that.
Right in the middle of the city.
Oh, wow.
Just on the 3rd floor, right off the pool.
Okay.
They grow all kinds of herbs. They grow vegetables. And so with it in their menu, you will actually see all of those ingredients.
Wow.
They go and they pick their lavender. They go and pick the basil. They ran out of something, they go to the rooftop garden and pick that.
That's so
and they
cool.
make their own honey.
Oh, wow.
So that's the other thing too. So when I worked on Fairmont Gold, we actually served honey in jars.
Honey.
Yes.
Wow.
And it was our signature. It was just for a
so
hotel.
Unique, yeah.
And it wasn't something that we sold outside either. It wasn't manufactured. It was specially just for our guests to enjoy. Wow. And that's something very unique. And again, our guests, when I worked there, they love to hear those stories. Yeah.
How do you deal with customers? I think this is a great question for anyone in this industry that has, I'm going to say front of house, but obviously some back of house people have those touch points as well with the consumer. But how do you deal with, one, a consumer that his expectations are above and beyond, or two, you're just not feeling like dealing with that today?
I think for someone that has high expectations, that's sort of like my everyday.
Okay.
Just because our rates in Vancouver are going up so much, and we have such a huge, our tourism industry is really getting really good these days, and we get all kinds of conventions, and we have travelers and tourists from all over the world, and their expectations are really high. So for me, that's something that now comes naturally.
Okay.
Compared to when I started 8 years ago.
Right.
I think it again comes with practice, right? The other thing I really like is our team. Our team at the Shangri-La is amazing. We all, everybody has their own strengths. For me, it's which gym should I go to?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I'm usually the gym person.
You tried them all, yeah.
But I have someone else that loves North Vancouver. She lives in North Vancouver, so she knows everything about the trails in North Vancouver. There's another person that knows the biking trails. She goes on biking adventures. So, we all have our own sort of specialty. So when we do have a guest that has high expectation and they throw us a challenge, we always talk amongst each other and see how we can get the right answer for them.
Okay.
And then, sorry, what did you say?
And then the second one was when you're just burnt out. I know for myself, when I used to work in the industry and I used to work front of house, and you would, for me, as a manager at the time, I would start at say 10 a.m. in the morning, and I wouldn't leave till 3 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to deal with
is an issue.
Midnight is an issue. So how do you put on that smiley face and deal with it, and deal with it in line with what your company sees is the standard?
I think when you're having a long day like that, I like to say to my colleagues and to myself too, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Right.
Because there's no point in being oh, I can do everything. Right. And a lot of people tend to have that notion in their head, and I used to be that way too, and I've definitely moved from that. And so now just being resourceful and asking for help and asking the right person to help you with things, and prioritizing it as well. And also as a manager, I feel like you need to mentor your colleagues. At Shangri-La, we are all empowered to make decisions.
Right.
And management tells us that every day. Like, if you need to make a decision, we give you full support.
Right.
And also training your colleagues to make the right decisions and not giving too much away, but also giving enough away to make the guest happy and to make the customers happy. I think it's all about delegating and also saying the right things, and having that open door policy for your colleagues to come to you. Even though you're a manager, I think when you mentor your colleagues, they will know exactly what to do in your absence. So even if you had a long day, you can still sit in the back or stay in the back and make sure that, or even if you have an assistant, like, make sure that they're doing the right thing, and maybe sort of training them and molding them into future leaders. Like, I think that's what I would say is the best thing to do. For me at the moment, I'm not a manager. But I am one of the senior concierges. So for me, I do the same thing to my concierges that are below me, because they are new to the city. One of them is new to the city. One of them has never been a concierge before. So when issues arise like that, I think just telling them to sort of like directing them in the right way, it makes a huge difference. And when you put the ball in their court and allow them to take control of it, they're empowered to make those decisions in the future as well.
Totally.
And so, yeah.
I like that. Yeah, I don't know that I've ever heard it described that way, but it makes more sense. And I feel like if every restaurant and bar and hotel could employ that strategy,
yes,
you would probably see a lot less burnout
and a lot less turnover with managers too,
and staff.
Exactly.
I find this industry, at least my time in it, could be very thankless. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the industry right now, where it is. Do you feel like, although we've just discussed like expectations and people having different expectations, but do you feel like this industry, your role and others like it are respected more so now than ever before, or is it still just the same as it always has been?
I think, again, it comes down to which person is looking at it and their status in the society too.
Okay.
Sometimes, some guests take concierges for granted. They know we can do everything, and then they just
they use and abuse it.
Exactly. But then there are some that actually know that we actually take the time to go out, and like they know about the industry and they know about like little concierges. So they actually come and ask us genuine things, like, that yeah, sometimes we get requests like, can you pick up my shoes from the cobbler? Like things like that. And sure.
You say sure with a smile?
Exactly, because concierges can do anything.
Right.
Yes. So
is there any point where you're like biting your tongue a bit?
I think it comes down to those people that have no budget. Like they have no issue of money, and they'll ask us to sometimes find a nail artist last minute. Okay. And they'll only give us like within an hour to come to their room. And this will be at 6 p.m. on a Sunday night. Right. This has happened. Right. And then I bring that person, because there's not a lot that will be willing to come last minute like that. And then I brought the person in, and the guest didn't like him and sent him away.
Oh, no.
And so now I can never call that person again, because it's sort of ruined my relationship with. Right.
It's so tough, because that's so nothing tough. You did. It's, you know what I mean? But then that's their memory. And exactly. And there was no expectations. Like the only expectation that was set was the fact that I needed a nail artist within that time period. Right. But there was no expectation set in terms of what type of nails they wanted to get done and things like that. And she just took one look at the person and sent him away. Oh no. So I can never go back to that nail salon again. Right. And I feel so bad. But to the guest, they don't really see that side. So yeah. Do you love what you do?
I do. I love what I do. I'm very passionate about this industry. And I love hotels. I'm a hotel snob. If I had more money, I would probably travel the world and stay in all these hotels. And I think also meeting people like from all these hotels and actually seeing that passion and that glitter in their eye when they're doing what I do, that's what makes me happy. Like learning how they got into the industry as well. Yeah. That's like, we all have our own stories of how we got into it.
exactly.
Like I went to London recently, and I met a few concierge colleagues there, and some of them kind of came into the industry out of chance as well. Some of them have been engineers, some of them have been in pharmaceuticals, and then they randomly were looking for a job and for a night job, and then they started as a night concierge. Like, it's so weird how they end up in the industry, but they're so passionate about it. And again, I feel like it also comes from your upbringing too.
For sure.
So if your parents have really taught you well and how to treat people with respect and stuff, I think it comes naturally to you. And it's interesting how the universe sort of steers you in that direction and brings you to that that time. And they just say, like, I can't see myself doing anything else. And it's the same with me. Like, I can't see myself doing anything else. I love meeting people from all over the world. I've met so many interesting guests. And when they tell me that this is what I'm supposed to be doing, it just makes it even more.
Right.
Yeah.
They reaffirm that for you.
Yes, they do.
Least favorite thing about your job and your favorite thing about your job.
Oh my God.
And
who's going to listen to this podcast?
Lots of people, hopefully. And do you call it a job?
I do call it a job, but something that I would say that the pay is really like a bonus.
Okay.
Because not a lot of people can say that they love their job.
You're totally right.
And for me, I love every minute of it, and I love the people I work with, because that also makes a difference. If you don't have a good team, that can really make or break your career as well. And for me, it's, like I can't wait to go to work and like work in the tallest tower in Vancouver. And, you know, so cool. And it's very different from the rest of the properties in downtown. It doesn't get that busy in the lobby. We have a signature scent as well. So people come in just to smell it. And then you don't even it's not just meeting people that are staying in the hotel, but you also get people from outside coming in to see.
Just to smell it.
Yeah, just to smell it. And I don't know if you know, but it's the same signature scent in all the Shangri-Las all over the world, and you can purchase it too.
What is it?
It's called Essence of Shangri-La.
Okay.
And there's like diffusers, there's candles, but we put it in our ventilation system.
Yeah. So is there a specific, like, is it lavender? Is it
no? It's like it's more like citrusy.
Is it a secret recipe?
Yes.
For sure.
Yes. I don't know the full details of it, but yeah, it was actually designed in Vancouver by our previous GM and the owner of Shangri-La. And then they really liked it, and then they started doing it in all the Shangri-Las.
Wow, so cool.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let you get off the hook with least favorite thing about your job.
Yes. I'm still thinking.
Is there one? A lot of people don't like the shift work.
Yes. Actually, it would be. I think it would not even the hours. For me, I think at this point, after working in the industry for 8 years, I'm kind of tired of working the evening shifts.
Right.
That will probably be my least favorite. Not saying that I wouldn't, like, you know, I've had really good evening shifts, but I feel like now I'm sort of shifting into the time, because I was so focused on my career, especially because I started at 19 and I left school. I've always been like so focused on trying to get to the top and trying to get the next sort of like certification and trying to network with people. I feel like I've achieved all of that, and now I'm sort of calm, like, you know, in a calm state where I actually want to focus on my work-life balance. Okay. And I want to focus on myself a little bit more personally, and, like, you know, and take care of my health. Because as a concierge, it's tough. It's tough in the sense that we get to try all these new restaurants. I mean, people think it's like all
glitz and glam.
Exactly. Yeah. But you're always drinking. You always end up drinking. You always end up trying all these different foods, fried foods, and it adds up. And, like, you know, it does. You know, it's deteriorating for your health.
It can be, very challenging.
So actually, we started this thing at in Lake Lador, where we actually do a wellness activity every month now.
Oh, awesome! That's great.
Yeah, I sort of initiated that with RYU.
Okay.
And last year, and it's taken off. So every month now we do like something wellness related, as opposed to just going out to restaurants and just eating and drinking. And and it's very different in Europe too. Actually, I was very surprised. I went to a meeting there, and they have, so here we actually have the meeting and then we have a reception. Right. There it was like it started at a pub. Yeah. This is a pre-reception for like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we went to the hotel for the meeting, and then there was more drinking.
Yeah, it's very different in Europe. I spent 2 years living in London. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
It's their culture. It's just what they do.
Yes.
So they've been doing it for far longer than we've even been a country. So
exactly. Yeah. So it was interesting to see that. And here we're like, oh, we should probably do some wellness activities.
Yeah.
And then I go there and I'm like, oh my God, I'm already a little bit tipsy
Yeah.
for the meeting.
Yeah, exactly. How are you going to focus in a meeting?
Exactly.
Before we close this off, I do have 2 questions that I ask on every single episode. And I don't prompt my guests.
Yes.
So I like to be as organic as it can be. And seeing as a podcast is called the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast, I have for you, Jenie, the half a dozen have tos. So 1 to 6. So you can do 1 or you can do 6 of your have tos. So put on your concierge hat, for example. What is something that you, Jenie, have done that our listeners or our viewers have to do? So 1 to half a dozen of Jenie's have tos.
So if you're new to Vancouver, definitely take a seaplane.
Okay.
Definitely go on the helijet. You really get to see all these different islands. And it's such a short period of time. It might not be in everybody's budget,
Right.
but definitely do it because you actually get to see the true beauty of the West Coast.
Right.
We're so lucky to have all these mountains and water,
Stunning.
and it's so beautiful. Definitely do a bike ride around Stanley Park.
Okay.
Don't leave Vancouver without doing that, because that's another beautiful way to see
Right.
the beauty and the scenic views, and so much history, and the totem poles. Like
Yeah,
the totem poles
gorgeous.
are so amazing. What else? Definitely try, like, talk to your concierge if you're staying in a hotel. Definitely talk to them and ask them where to go and eat, and where, what kind of sites to do. And also try something local. Like, don't just go to those touristy things.
Right.
Go on a hike, go to Quarry Rock,
Right.
Do things on your own, because our city is so small, and also Vancouver people are so friendly that even if you get lost, you can ask someone for help.
Yeah.
I don't know about the whole of Canada. They say that Canadians are friendly, but
I hope so.
but I don't know. I've had different experiences in other cities.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But in Vancouver, for sure, like, even the bus drivers are so nice, and they'll tell you like where to get off and things like
Right.
that.
That's awesome.
So that's 3.
That's 4.
That's 4. What else?
You don't have to do 6 if you don't want to. Most people do 1 and they get really nervous and then they stop. But you're on fire, so you can keep going.
So does this have to be in Vancouver, or can
No,
be?
just something you've experienced that you think our listeners should experience. Like, is it something you did in France?
Yes. So definitely take a solo trip.
So
Travel more. Life is too short. And don't be scared to travel alone. Go outside your comfort zone. Talk to people when you're traveling. Like, even if you feel lonely in the city, like, talk to people, and somehow they'll help you, or you'll spend an amazing night with them, and it'll be so memorable for you. Also try Airbnb experiences when you're in Europe.
Yeah.
I was in Barcelona, and I did this wine tasting on this girl's rooftop, and it was facing Sagrada Familia. I don't know if you've heard of this church.
No.
It's one of the famous churches in Barcelona, and I've never done anything like that. I was like, wow, I'm like on a rooftop in Barcelona.
So cool.
With like 10 strangers, and it was a wine tasting. Like, she was so passionate about wine. And it was, definitely try Airbnb experiences. This is not like a sponsored post.
It's not a paid advertisement.
No, it's not. But it was like, you really get to meet the locals. And, sometimes it's better not to be a tourist and be more of a local, and actually go into people's homes and see how they live in the city. That to me was the most exciting, I think.
Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah. Such a great idea. The last one for you is the half a dozen haven't yet. So something you haven't done yet. So 1 to half a dozen of Jenie's haven't yet.
I haven't yet lived or sort of like, I've moved from Middle East to Vancouver.
Yeah.
And I feel like Vancouver is my home now. But I would love to move to Europe.
Okay.
And try it out for 2 years. I've been thinking about it. I actually want to pick your brain about London.
Yeah, definitely.
But I definitely want to do that.
Okay.
Definitely want to live in Paris.
Okay.
I would love to live in Paris if I knew the language more. I would move there in a heartbeat. And I also want to be a concierge in different cities. Like
Okay.
that's definitely on my, I would call it my bucket list for my professional career.
Right.
I don't want to stick to just Vancouver. I actually want to take this everywhere. I want to take it all around the world, and the world is so big.
It is so big, yeah.
And I'm 28, and I feel like I have that opportunity,
Definitely.
especially because we're such a close knit group of concierges, and I
Mm.
feel like I can reach out to somebody around the world and say, hey, like I'm thinking of moving here. What do you think?
Right.
And they're also honest and so helpful. So that would be another thing that I want to do.
It's such a transferable job, isn't it?
It is.
Obviously,
But
language barriers.
Language
and things like
barriers, and also depends on the hotel chains, and
Right.
and also knowing the right people makes a difference too.
that. For sure. But you're a
Yeah.
concierge. You know everyone.
I don't know everyone, but I feel like I have a friend in every part of the world.
That's really cool. And
Yeah.
not many people can say that. So I think
No.
it's very unique to
Exactly.
your industry
Yeah.
and the tribe that you're in. I think that's such a cool
It
thing.
is. Like in London, I met this person. I'm going to say his name because he was amazing. His name is Tim. He had just become a Lake Later concierge.
Congratulations, Tim.
Yes, and he worked towards it for 6 years. I did it for 2 years. He worked for 6
Wow.
years. So you can really tell that he was really passionate and he really wanted to become a member. I just reached out to him on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, hey, I'm coming. Like, I don't have my accommodation set yet. He literally helped me with everything.
So cool.
He helped me with accommodations. He helped me with, he took me out for lunch one day. He introduced me to concierges at the meeting. I can't believe, like, I just never knew him before.
Yeah.
I just felt like I have a long lost friend
And that
in
to
London.
me, yeah, and that to me, what is, again, that is what hospitality is.
Exactly.
It is the shopping at the vintage stores.
Yeah.
It is the random acts of kindness that this gentleman, Tim, that you've never met before. So it's
Yeah.
not just about going to a hotel
No.
and getting hospitality. It's not about going to a restaurant and receiving hospitality. It's
Yeah.
about how we live our lives day in and day out
Exactly.
and being hospitable. It's
Mhm.
about opening the door and holding it for someone. It is about
Yes.
saying thank you or saying hello.
Mhm.
So I think you've definitely found the industry and the role that you are meant to be doing.
Yes. I feel like the universe really, like, I have good karma.
Yeah.
For sure. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I just never thought I would be in this industry. Like, never in my wildest dreams. Like, even my parents tell me today, they're like, we used to stay in hotels in Dubai. And I was like, I know. And like, look where I am right
Yeah.
now. Like, to them, it's also so, like, intriguing, like, how I ended up here.
So
But
cool.
truly, I'm so thankful to the universe. And I'm so thankful to all those people that believed in me,
Mhm.
because I wouldn't be here without them.
But you also wouldn't be here if you didn't work as hard as you did.
And
You're
yes.
such a bright and happy soul,
Thank you.
right? So thank you so much. So before I do let you go, where can people find you? How can they learn more about what it is that you do, and how can they check you out, whether it's on social media or at work?
Mhm.
How can people find you?
So on Instagram, you can find me Jenie's Block. So it's JENIESBLOC as in Charlie. No K, because people always say you're Jenny from the blog. So I just thought, okay, I'll just put a spin on that.
Right.
And I recently started a blog as well. It's called lifeofaconcierge.com.
So cool. I'm going to check that out.
Yeah. Haven't been posting a lot lately just because I'm trying to sort of rebrand and, like, come up with something else. But
Okay.
definitely my blog about how I ended up in the industry is on there, and what I love about what I'm doing, and have a read on that. And I get to go to different events. I've written one or two articles about all these different events as well. But feel free to direct message me on Instagram if you want to try out a new place. I'll come with you. Like,
Yeah. So
I'm
cool.
a friendly person. I love meeting people, and just reach out to me.
Awesome. Can we hold you accountable for more blog posts?
Yes, definitely. I'm going to aim for one a month. I'm going to write one about my solo trip as well.
Okay. You're going to aim for one a month, or you're going to do one a month?
No, I'm going to do one a month.
That is a girl.
Yes.
I like it. Thank you, Jenny, so much for coming on. I want to
Thank
take
you,
a
Brad.
second to recognize you for being who you are, and for being such an amazing soul, and for being so kind, always smiling,
Thank you.
and making everyone around you feel better. So from someone that met you at the gym to now someone that's sitting across from you on a microphone, I truly do feel like we are friends, and I
Yes.
truly do feel like anyone that comes across you is a lucky person. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you, Brad.
coming on, taking the time. And thank you guys for listening and watching, as always. Until next time,
Yes.
be good and do good. Well done.
Thank
you did it.
you. Thank you so much. This is so amazing.
You did great.